Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are tackling a really big one. Chapter 5 from your Class 10 NCERT Science textbook, Life Processes. Seriously, if you're getting ready for your board exams, you absolutely have to know this chapter inside and out. So let's break it down together and make sure you've got all the key concepts down cold.
So, right off the bat, the chapter asks a fantastic question. You see a dog running, you know it's alive. Easy, right? But what if the dog's asleep? You'd probably check if it's breathing. And what about a plant? It's not running around. It's not breathing like we do. It just goes to show you, visible movement, it's not a very reliable test for what's alive and what's not.
You know, the real secret to life is happening on a scale that's completely invisible to us. Living things are these incredibly organized structures, right? But the environment is always kind of trying to break them down. To fight that, there's this constant buzz of activity. Molecules moving around 24/7, repairing and maintaining everything. These absolutely essential maintenance jobs, well, those are what we call life processes. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through the 4 essential life processes that are crucial for your exams: nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. Let's get right to it. First things first, what actually is it that makes something alive? Let's get a solid definition for these core maintenance jobs we're calling life processes. Okay, so think of it this way. Life processes are basically the non-negotiable jobs an organism has to do just to keep from falling apart. Even when you're fast asleep, your body is working overtime to survive. This involves 4 main things: getting fuel, getting the energy out of that fuel, moving everything around, and finally, taking out the trash. Let's kick things off with the first and probably the most obvious process: nutrition. This is all about how living things get the energy and raw materials they need from the outside world to keep the whole show on the road. Now, this right here is a classic exam question, so make sure you've got this down. You've got autotrophs, like plants, who are the ultimate self-starters. They make their own food. Then you have heterotrophs, like you and me, who have to get our energy by eating other organisms. We're the consumers. For our autotrophs, all the magic happens through photosynthesis. It's basically a 3-step dance. First, the chlorophyll in the plant soaks up sunlight. Second, that light energy gets converted into chemical energy, and it's used to split water molecules. And third, that energy is used to turn carbon dioxide into carbohydrates, like starch, which the plant stores up for later. Now, for us heterotrophs, getting energy is a whole journey down the alimentary canal. It kicks off in the mouth, where salivary amylase starts breaking down starch. Then, in the stomach, acid and an enzyme called pepsin get to work on proteins. But the small intestine, that's the main event. It's where everything gets fully digested and then absorbed, thanks to these amazing little finger-like things called villi that give it a huge surface area. Okay, great. So we've eaten the food, we've broken it down, we've absorbed the nutrients. Now what? How do our cells actually get the energy out of those food molecules? Well, that is the job of respiration. And this is where things get really cool. The first step, no matter what, is breaking down glucose into a molecule called pyruvate. But after that, the path splits. If there's oxygen, that's aerobic respiration, happening inside our mitochondria. You get a massive energy payoff. But if there's no oxygen, that's anaerobic respiration. You get way less energy. You also get lactic acid, which is that stuff that makes your muscles burn and cramp when you're working out really hard. So how is all this energy actually packaged? It's stored in a molecule called ATP. The best way to think of ATP is like a tiny rechargeable battery for your cells. It's the universal energy currency that powers literally everything: thinking, moving, you name it. Respiration charges up the ATP, and your cells spend it to get work done. All right, so we've got our fuel and we know how to release its energy. But how do we get that energy, plus oxygen and other nutrients, to trillions of cells and then get all the waste out? We need a super efficient delivery service. And that brings us to transportation. And check this out. This is why we can't just rely on simple diffusion. It would take an oxygen molecule 3 years to get from your lungs to your toes just by diffusing. 3 years, no way. That's exactly why we have a circulatory system and a special pigment in our red blood cells called hemoglobin that grabs onto oxygen and shuttles it around at high speed. This separation of the heart is the whole key to our double circulation system. It means for every 1 full trip around the body, blood actually passes through the heart twice. The first loop pumps blood to the lungs to get oxygenated. Then, that fresh, oxygen-rich blood comes back to the heart to get pumped out powerfully to the rest of the body. Keeping those two streams separate is what makes our oxygen supply so incredibly efficient. This entire network is built from 3 types of vessels. Arteries have thick, elastic walls to handle the high-pressure blood being pumped away from the heart. Veins bring that blood back under much lower pressure, so they have valves to make sure it doesn't flow backwards. And then you have capillaries, which are incredibly tiny, just 1 cell thick so that all the good stuff can be exchanged directly with your body's cells. Of course, plants need a transport system too. The xylem is like a one-way street, pulling water and minerals up from the roots. It's powered by water evaporating from the leaves, a process called transpiration. The phloem, though, is a two-way street. It moves the sugary food made in the leaves to wherever the plant needs it. And this process, called translocation, is an active one. The plant actually has to spend ATP to make it happen.
And that brings us to our final essential life process, excretion. All of those metabolic reactions that keep us alive also create waste products. And getting rid of these toxic, nitrogen-based wastes is absolutely critical for survival.
In us humans, the kidneys run the whole operation, and the real star of the show is this tiny filtering unit called the nephron. You gotta remember the 3 key steps it uses. First is filtration, where blood is pushed through a filter. Second is selective reabsorption, where the body pulls back anything useful, like water and glucose. And finally, what's left over gets concentrated into urine and sent to the bladder. Plants have much more, passive ways of getting rid of waste. I mean, for them, oxygen is actually a waste product of photosynthesis. They get rid of extra water through transpiration. Sometimes they store waste in leaves that they just drop, or they secrete it as things like gums and resins. It's a much, much simpler system. So, as we wrap this all up, here's the biggest idea I want you to take away. These 4 life processes, they're not working alone. They are a deeply interconnected team. Think about it. When you're running a race, your heart rate, your breathing, your energy use, it all ramps up together, perfectly in sync. And when you're sleeping, it all powers down together. That constant, coordinated adjustment to meet whatever your body needs at any given moment, that beautiful interplay is the true signature of life.